kids in sport, or no?
Well, that's not the big. Okay, we're done. That's a great way to start. Dun dun dun.
Can we talk
All right, we'll clap.
Bob's Burgers
3,
characters?
2, 1. What about Bob's Burgers?
But Bobby!
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 All right, great way to start. All right, welcome to our first annual Curling Mustache. No, it's Why Teach Physical Education podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Rumley. With me today is
Rylan Kettles.
Nate Kettles.
Shannon Chisholm.
All right, thanks for being here today, guys. So let's just get some background on everybody's, I guess what we did for sports growing up, and like what you're doing for school also. So I guess I'll just start. Played sports growing up my whole life. I think the only sports I didn't play in high school were curling and volleyball or rodeo, and I basically did everything else. Ended up playing football past high school. Was lucky enough to play at the university and junior level. Got a bachelor's in history, and now I'm doing my after ed degree at U of C, and my specialization is physical education. Rylan, for yourself?
Yeah, growing up I played every conceivable sport. Took all of them to the pro level. I'm just kidding. I played a bunch of sports growing up, mostly hockey and football. Took football to varsity level. Now I'm done playing football, and I take software engineering at U of C.
Played a bunch of sports growing up as well. Hockey, baseball, football, same core sorts of things. Was really serious about football. Played university football as long as I could. Just finished about a year ago. And I have a kinesiology degree from the U of C.
And you're training kids now, right? You're training.
Yes, I also am a strength coach on the university team and the junior team here in the city.
Shannon, what about yourself?
Same thing. Nothing much to do in a small town, so I played all the sports I could. Kept myself busy that way. Found rugby was the best.
Stay out of the drugs.
Exactly.
Stay off the farm.
Yeah, basically.
That's the way to
Found rugby was best suited for me, and I played for 4 years at U of C and just retired because of injury. And I've been coaching younger kids from grade 6 and up, and started the Dinos rugby camp at U of C, and I'm working on my degree in kinesiology.
Cool. So, it's fair to say we all have cats that like to play with microphones. No. We all have a pretty good background in sports, especially like moving on from high school. We all moved on from high school and in one sport or another. But the big thing I found with this group is, and I think we're going to discuss, is that we didn't keep doing PE. We didn't do gym class going past the required level we had to do. So, like, my background in PE, like gym class, was like, did grade 10, and after that I stopped. Was everybody basically the same, or?
Yeah, I did. Did I do it in grade 11? I don't think I did. I don't know. I didn't do it all the way through high school. I think I stopped after grade 10. Yeah.
Yeah, you stopped.
I stopped after grade 10.
Shannon?
I actually did it by correspondence because I hated the gym class, so I counted all of my sports and did nutrition write-ups and stuff, a little more specific into what my degree was going to be after, but no, didn't stay within the school.
So,
You did gym by distance learning?
Let's jump on that, because I did not know that.
You could do that.
I knew you could do it. I'd never heard of anyone doing
Yeah.
it. So you what was it you didn't like about the class?
I didn't think that the dynamic was always the best, that I felt like a lot of kids got isolated, and I didn't feel like I was learning much, and I got kind of tired of just dodgeball. I wanted to do different things with a bit higher skill, and doing individual things and then team sports kind of suited me the best.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's actually a great jumping off point. But so what was so that was a good reason like why you stopped, and I think for most of us, Rylan, Nate, and myself, I think we stopped because like we didn't need to do it and it wouldn't translate to our university, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Well,
a
yeah,
fair
for
assessment?
me, like, it got to be just a waste of time. Like, yeah, when you're a kid growing up, it's nice to run around and, like, blow off some steam for a while. But, like, when I got cat, dude, bro. when I got especially in the later grades, I had to take, because I was trying to get into engineering, right? So I had to take every science class that was offered, and
Yeah.
all the all the maths that was offered. So I physically couldn't fit gym into my schedule.
And
so.
with high school gym, you don't want to be doing floor hockey for 90 minutes, right?
Well, I would have liked to rather than doing calculus, but
yeah.
it doesn't translate into anything really. It's nothing that nobody goes to university because they did good in gym, really. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately.
Even if you were taking gym.
Mm-hmm. And so kind of stepping back a little bit, kind of going back to gym in middle school, maybe in grade 9 and grade 10, what was gym like? You guys kind of recall how what did we do? I just remember playing a lot of sports, the volleyball unit, the basketball unit,
Yeah, I remember learning. Yeah, it was basically just split up into just learning different sports skills. I think that's good though. At a young age, to introduce people to the different, a whole bunch of different sports, and be like, hey, if you like this, then you can translate it into something else. But as far as it's tough in where we're all from in a small town, because there wasn't, we'd play the sports, but there wasn't really a lot of opportunity to have an organized league, to join a league of some of those sports.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
What did you remember about it, Nate? Because sometimes we weren't in the same classes growing up.
Yeah, no, it was just basically split up into a bunch of different sports, and I always loved gym as a kid because I was, super competitive, loved playing different sports and competing, and so I took joy from the fact that we played a bunch of sports because I liked trying and learning a bunch of different things. But I know that some people don't look at it that way, but I definitely enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it growing up.
Shannon,
I
did you
always
a lot of sports?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was really good, but I feel like the older you got, you had more of a division between kids.
Yeah.
And I think that really shows the lack of the younger education for physical education, and I think that it needs to start at a basis more, because once we started hitting the end of middle school, the sport units weren't fun because the division between who was starting to go on teams and who was good bases, who was honestly don't have the basic jumping skills and that kind of stuff, ended up being really apparent, and that made it less fun, I think, for everybody.
Yeah. So lots of sports is what we got, right? So this is so it's a little weird because I want to read you this quick blurb.
There was fitness stuff.
This comes
too,
from
that's,
this comes from Part B, the General Specific Outcomes in Physical Education Program of Studies from Alberta Education. So this is laid out by our government. So these are the 4 general outcomes upon which kindergarten to grade 12 physical education program is based, and states that students will acquire skills through a variety of developmentally appropriate movement activities, dance games, types of gymnastics, individual activities, activities in alternative environments, example aquatics and outdoor activities. Number 2, understand, experience, and appreciate the health benefits that come from physical activity. 3, interact positively with others. And 4, assume responsibility to lead an active life. So nowhere in that set of outcomes do I read, must learn to set a volleyball, must learn to shoot free throw. So, but we've all experienced growing up, gym was pure sport.
Yeah, but it did mention gymnastics and stuff. We always did gymnastics, and I always liked that. That was actually one of the funnest activities in gym class for me. But I think, specific. It's not going to say specifically yes, you got to learn how to shoot a basketball.
No,
but that is a movement. Didn't it say something about movement skill? That's a movement skill. I mean, it's physical literacy.
It's true. That is a movement skill, but it's just funny how we didn't do anything outside of sports. And to put that a step further, team sport. Because we did badminton and stuff, but it was we did the volleyball unit and the basketball unit. And I remember the volleyball unit being my least favorite one because you're just sitting around. There's 6 or 8 of you on a team, and maybe 2 people maybe get to hit the ball in a rally. If there's no.
Yeah, but there's individual sports too. We did track.
Yeah.
I don't know. As far as the one thing that is pretty blatant on that is there isn't. I mean, we didn't do appreciate the health benefits. I mean,
Yeah.
like what kid is like,
Yeah, we're gonna get into that.
that feels so
We'll get
good
into that
about
more as we go.
feels so good about the running unit I just did.
Exactly. So, like in the United States right now, currently funding for PE is on a decline. As a result, they're experiencing a reduction in physical activity among young adults and children. And in this article about the effect of physical education by Dawn Podolsky and James M. Pivernick, they highlight that daily participation in physical education among high school youth at the national level is 29%. So that's pretty bad.
That's low, yeah.
And participation declines as students progress through the grades. So grade 9, you're at 42%, grade 10, 30, grade 11, 20%, and grade 12 is 20.1, which is no increase basically. But so they looked at like a study that showed like 30 minutes of activity would have on grades, and while they didn't see like a huge jump that they may have expected, they didn't see a decline. They did see a few increases, but they didn't see a decline. So like we all were in the -1s going through high school and everything, and even like I struggled with reading early on in math as well getting into high school. But like, do you guys think that having a PE class before your hardest class you took would have helped you, like, because it would have like had your brain going more and stuff like that going into it?
Well, I don't know. Are you talking like high school or like
Yeah, just
specifically
doing
high school?
like or middle school, like doing 30 minutes of activity before, like, what was your hardest course you ever took?
They're all easy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Beach
Yeah.
on top of a mountain down. I like that.
No, I'm just playing. But I don't know. Yeah, probably. It's hard to go just like head down grinding for like, whatever. What is that class length? Like, are they still like 90 minutes or something?
Well, middle school would be like 40, 45, 30
yeah,
minutes.
okay. But yeah, I mean, it's hard attention wise. I mean, did I have recess in middle school?
Yeah, we had recess.
Yeah, so that's like at least, that kind of counts as a break. That would work enough for me.
Well, what about
Yeah,
the
but I
kid?
feel like
What about
kids
the kid
didn't
at
use
recess
it.
that just sits in the corner and plays on his DS?
See, but even that for me,
That was him.
well, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah,
but even
like-
that for me is enough of a mental break from the other thing to be able to be recharged for the next class.
100%. But at the same time, like, I think you can't just rely on recess to be like, oh, they get their physical activity at recess.
Well, if you're,
No.
you can't use recess as, making sure everyone gets physical activity. But your question was, did I think that I needed 30 minutes of physical activity
Well,
to
did you
be
think it would have helped
recharged?
you?
It would have been mentally, personally, I don't think it would have been any different than just chilling and not doing school for 30 minutes.
Okay. Nate, what about you?
Well, for me, growing up as a kid, whenever I did get breaks, I just was physically active,
Yeah.
like at recess and stuff, because that's what I liked to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that that's not a habit that a lot of kids have
Well, yeah,
for a number of different reasons. Whether that be that's not just what they're taught at home. That's not something that is put
What their
as
friends are into.
important. I personally think from my Canese background that it is important for kids to be physically active, and I was just lucky enough to come from a background where I liked playing lots of sports, and that's where I got that activity from. But I know that there's lots of kids that don't get that, and so that gym class and like organized activity could be really crucial for those kids that don't get it in any other part of their lives.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the side that I come from. I think that 30 minutes of activity for a kid who isn't normally active would be hugely beneficial to help them in their studies.
Yeah. Shannon?
Yeah, like Nate said, I mean, the amount of studies that have been done about having movement breaks during the day that they're trying to get even people in the workplace to do and stuff, I feel like is important and beneficial for kids. But I think one of the main things is that we haven't made physical activity a good or beneficial break that kids want to do. For me, like when I was younger, I loved recess, run around, or gym class before a test. And now I still will use physical activity as a way to de-stress or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's built from home and from more like values that I have. But that's not within the physical education program like Nate said.
Yeah.
So that you're basically, I feel like kids aren't seeing it as an opportunity, or they just see it as go sit around or feel awkward or something, that it's not being built like, yeah, this is a good thing, you're going to feel so good.
Yeah.
After...
I don't know. Like, my personal philosophy and stance on this matter is that kids need active brains to do work. And a stagnant brain does next to nothing. You might as well talk to a wall if you're a teacher, because you're not actively engaged with the kid. They're not learning or anything. And coming off like a highly engaged activity, like a PE class, like a 30 minutes of PE would give you, you're able to soak in more information. And you can even recall more information as well. It's not just about learning. Like sometimes, especially in social class, we have to recall stuff. Or math, or science, or anything like that. You're like, okay, so what did we talk about last week? And you're able to get those neurons firing more, so you can bring it up. So I think as a future PE teacher myself, I have a huge responsibility in providing children with opportunities of physical activity that allow them to be active where they might not be. And Nate, I know you might be going into education next year for physical education as well. Like, I don't know. I mean, here's a crazy stat is like not a lot of kids play sports after middle school. I mean, if I roughly remember the statistic, it's the amount of kids that don't play on a team sport in high school is a level higher than 80%. But yet, when we get to high school, we're only pertaining to that 20 to 10% when we teach sport-specific stuff in the high school gym, like basketball. Like, how many kids were on our basketball team?
Well, the thing is, like, the idea that they need to teach sports in gym class is outdated in the sense that that's not what the majority of the population is going to relate to. So all of us here at the table, we all were athletes.
Yeah.
And so doing sports in gym for us was great.
It's an extra practice.
It was
sometimes.
great, and we learned a lot. But if you think about catering gym class for the entire population, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Would that make gym more boring for athletes? Maybe. But the thing is, when it comes to education, you really are trying to cater to the whole and not to the few. And I think there are programs for the few, just like there is in learning. There's advanced placement, there's things like that. And I think you could do the same sorts of things with high-level athletes. There's schools for athletes already. I think at the same time, too...
Schools are expensive.
They are expensive.
Those ones are, yes.
I think also, too, when we were going through gym, I mean, you got to think, that was, 10 plus years ago.
But the curriculum hasn't been updated since 2000, so that's not like it wasn't laid out for them before that.
Yeah, but I think when, like, if you have a quality teacher who does continued learning and goes to conferences, I believe that gym class, it has been a heavy focus on moving away from sports-specific gym class. Mm-hmm. Even in the last 5 years, I think it has improved a lot. And I haven't been in a high school gym class since I graduated high school. So I'd like to think that they are moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay, so explain a non-sports specific gym class. What do you do? Is dodgeball a sport?
There's tons.
I don't understand.
There's physical activity. You can do
nobody wants to go to gym. No one wants to go to gym class and fucking work out the whole time.
Yeah,
but
no, that's not really
we're saying
I don't really understand.
It's other activity, like daily activity, like all these kids. Economics a big one. You're like, how many kids can afford to put out $400 for 3 months in a season? Not a lot.
Well, exactly.
But the alternative environments was on the Alberta government thing. How many times did we go swimming in gym? Once a semester, if that.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids they used to go camping all the time, but now
I never got to do that.
No, I'm saying in my mom's high school and when she taught. So that's a while ago. Maybe some people in Calgary because they can afford to. But I think those kinds of activities like camping and hiking and swimming that used to be in gym or is in other places is really lacking. And I think that's more of a incorporating physical activity into your lifestyle and making it about a lifestyle, not about sports.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's
that's okay.
And the big thing too,
I get what you guys are going
with that. What you're saying, Shannon, is it's almost a lack on the educator's part because they're kind of being a little lazy there, going, "I'll just teach a basketball unit. Why don't you teach an outdoor guide unit? Why don't you teach a hiking unit? You don't have to go to the mountains. You can do a hike around your town. I mean, obviously there'd be some waivers signed, but
yeah, and probably the school might.
And there's tons of funding that you have access to as a teacher. I mean, that's just in my opinion, that you're just being lazy.
Well, no, I think it's true. And there's also just a lack of creativity when it comes to doing inclusive games that can include everybody at all activity levels. There's tons of team building games that involve movement. There's tons of puzzle solving stuff you can do with groups of people. You see it a lot of the time in the workforce when a group of workers from a corporation will go out and do like team building.
Yeah, like they'll go to an escape room or archery tag.
Yeah, and stuff like that, where it doesn't matter your athletic ability. And I think that there needs to be more of a focus on educating teachers to give them just more resources to choose from in activity in gym that is inclusive for everybody in the gym class, where no one feels like just because they're unathletic that they're going to be embarrassed.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to my next source I wanted to bring in, which was this article on physical education in primary schools by Philip J. Morgana and Vivek Hansama. And just they looked at it and they examined the perceptions. It's in Australia, but they examined the perceptions of classroom teachers regarding the benefits and the outcomes of their PE programs. And they talk about, I know it's maybe like a hot button issue, is the obesity rates, but in this article they described from 1985 to I must have wrote the date wrong to 2004. It increased at an alarming rate. So from 1985, 11% of boys and 12% of girls were considered overweight, but then you get to 2004 and that number has almost tripled in boys to 26, and girls have doubled to 24%. So, a lot of these teachers believed that PE was beneficial to increase the students' physical activity in the school, but most teachers viewed it as the school's responsibility to provide this physical activity opportunities. What's your guys' take on that? Do you think it's the school's job and role to make sure these kids are active, or is a little bit of the blame to go on parents as well? Or not the blame, but the responsibility?
I think it's important. I don't know, I'm not a parent, but I have parents.
Yeah.
And, they taught us, well, we were always in sports, right? A lot of people can't afford sports, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if, I don't know, if you can't afford sports, I think, yeah, it is a little bit on the parents to at least teach your kid, I don't know, go on walks or something, or go, do something, because if you leave it all on the school, they're probably not going to be able to.
Yeah, because you gotta educate parents too. It's not like you're just educating the kids, but I think you don't have to involve the parents, but at least get them knowing what the benefits of their kids being active, getting them being active, because that's the whole thing. That's been the problem for when these kids have kids. We want them to put the active lifestyle into their lives, and I think it comes down to educating parents too.
It's tough for a school to tell a parent how to parent their kids.
No, yeah.
But the thing is too, I think in a parent-teacher interview format, would be a really good.
Your kids are fat. They need to get.
Here are the benefits.
Let's be honest. Let's go off that for 1 second. We have a kid, and you can tell they're not physically active. And we have a program going, and the parents wondering about it. How come my daughter's complaining that she has to be physically active? Why? And we can, and we as an educator can inform her, hey, we're trying to. Sally, we're just trying to make sure she's, getting the right information about living a healthy and long lifestyle.
We need to make sure the kid has fun, then she won't complain.
Yeah, there's so many activities that are available online for kids to do that we have access to as teachers to make sure you're kind of tricking them into, being active.
Well, it turns into a brain game, but you gotta move.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really what it is you got to incorporate thinking into movement and puzzle solving and teamwork and things like that.
Yeah, well, exactly. In that article, the teacher said the majority stated that the major benefits were physical outcomes and sportsmanship, teamwork, and life skills. And the big one they thought was physical outcomes will prevent obesity and increase coordination, your gross and fine motor skills.
Yeah, but all that stuff that you just described, literally just there, is probably most efficiently taught and explained through teaching sports, I think. As you said, sportsmanship, teamwork, athletic movement.
There's tons of games.
That's why I'm saying
it is for an athlete, but not for a non-athlete.
It's an easy fallback. Is the thing it's an easy fallback for an educator to say I'm going to teach. Okay, think of this: basketball games you played. How many people actually touched the ball when we played?
Yeah,
and floor hockey. How many people are actually?
I agree with what you're saying when it comes to people who are athletes and have athletic backgrounds. If you're a hockey player and you can afford to play hockey, that is one of the best places to learn sportsmanship and how to be part of a team.
And for me, I would just say football is one of that.
Well, exactly. But the thing
Or
is,
rugby.
where you fall into trouble is you got to remember that the majority of students are non-athletes. And so,
Especially as we get older.
and especially as we get older and the gap becomes bigger. So when you go in, if you're looking at a high school gym class that has athletes and non-athletes in it, playing sports leaves the majority of kids behind because they can't keep up.
And I like that point, Nate, because I think the guys that are gonna play sports are gonna play it outside
Or
of school.
girls.
Or the students. Sorry, let's just say the students. The students who are gonna play sports are gonna do it.
They're going to play sports outside of school, and that's where they're going to get their physical
If
education.
a kid's gonna play video games, they're gonna play it after school. If they want to go for a bike ride, they're gonna do it after school. They're not gonna do it during school.
You know what I always thought was bizarre is we had gym class, but then we also had like options and stuff, and then there was like sports option. So it was
Yeah.
like I'd go to gym
Yeah.
class and do a bunch of sports, and then I'd take an option and then do a bunch more sports.
You could have a sports-specific
Yeah, and
class
that's what I
called
was thinking.
sports.
You could. That's why I was thinking
Gym
they
class-
should do it as an option,
Yeah.
like sports option. Like they still have that, and you play all
Basketball.
those sports. You play basketball, you play floor hockey, blah 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 blah. But then gym class, I mean, you could make gym class
More
more
tailored.
dynamic and less tailored, more general for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? That's what
Tailored
you're
for the
trying to do.
population.
Well,
But
and
what
I
I'm
think-
saying too, sorry to interrupt, is
She interrupted you.
Yeah, she
Yeah, I
did.
did.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that, like, so we're from Claresholm, which is a tiny town, 3,600 people, and, you know, you're saying, okay, we'll do all these extra activities, like, well, go to an escape room or whatever, or go to, you know, whatever, I don't know, apparently there's lots of stuff, but, like, there's not lots of stuff in a rural community like that, and even if there was, like, the school can't afford it. School's not going to pay for it. And the kids that can't afford to play sports probably can't afford to go play paintball either or whatever.
That's where creativity's got to come into fact.
Yeah, and I think so. This is once again my own stance. Shannon, sorry. What did you want to say when you want to say?
I think when we're saying sports, we're just assuming that we're talking about basketball, volleyball, and stuff.
100%.
Which is, I think that there should be an understanding that there's a lot of sports that are actually classified sports that we don't know. And then so bringing in inclusion sports, like things like goalball, that's for people with visual disabilities and stuff like that. That you could even include that into, even if you don't have kids, because now and then, we're in a small town, but now and then somebody will come in with a disability, and then if people know those games, and honestly, they put everybody on a different level because it's new skills, so they don't have that other ways, and I think incorporating sports that aren't necessarily mainstream could have the same kind of benefits as different
Things that level
movement
them.
ideas.
Well,
That's
like
actually a good
wheelchair
point.
basketball.
And
That's
I
actually a good point.
that's why I
If
like
you get the
big-
basketball players in gym class and you do a basketball
Yeah,
unit,
all of a sudden you can't reach them.
Who's gonna play?
Yeah.
The basketball players, and everyone else is gonna go.
Yeah.
It's just
fuck
this
around,
huge, this
throw the
huge
ball at each other.
disconnect. Like
That's true.
especially in Calgary, like Claresholm, like what we have about 90 kids per grade. So you get to like a school like St. Francis. I don't know how many kids go there, but it's in the thousands.
So many.
Like the graduating classes are we're
800.
getting to like 800, 900. Like we're almost a third of the population of our town. How many kids are on the basketball team? It's going to be the same number as in our town, but then you look at the student population versus the basketball team. Like, why would you teach basketball at St. Francis? You're literally, you're preaching to like 0.1%, 0.5% of your student population. And I think as a future PE teacher, I have a huge responsibility. And for me, teaching gym is going to be about providing children with opportunities of physical activity that will allow them to be active where they might not be. Because let's be honest, going to sound like parents nowadays. You hear them crying about how kids nowadays they just want to be on their tablets and video games and streaming, and they want to watch YouTube. Maybe it's overprotective and overworked parents today play a factor as well. We're not. I mean, when we were all young, like I could bike into town to your house, like I could go do whatever I wanted outside, but nowadays, and there is a certain parents want to be protective of their kids. Maybe they might love them to go to the park, and you come home, and some parents are single parents and they're working 12, 14 hours a day. They get home and they don't have time to take their kid to the pool or to the hockey rink, or let's go to the YMCA and do some fun activities together. So I think for me, like as an educator, that'll be like definitely a big role I have, is helping these kids get physical activity during the day where they otherwise might not.
Yeah. So like, what kind of stuff would you do in a class?
There's tons of stuff. I think.
Yeah, but we've tossed around tons of stuff, but like specifically
Zumba. We've done tons of games right now in my specialization that don't involve sports. We did this one activity. We just took a feather and we groups of 4, and you had to blow to keep the feather up. Oh, it's hilarious. We were running around having such a good time doing it. We did a quick parkour thing where we went outside and made obstacle courses over parkour, and these are just some examples you can do. Like, that's not a sport. There's no sport specific thing there. Everybody's just being agile, and kids are learning balance, balancing on beams, jumping off onto mats, making sure it's safe, of course. But
hardcore parkour.
So I think this is kind of the main question of the podcast, is why teach PE? Because we have this big drop off of sports as kids as they get older. And we want to teach kids on what active and healthy lifestyles are, and we want to give examples and lay a foundation of how active and healthy they have to be. Like, not that they have to be, but what they can be going forward. Anybody have anything to add to that?
I think PE as a class can be combined with health as a class.
100%.
And you can combine a class and call it PE and health, or just literally call it health. And that class could be used for educating on the benefits of living healthy, active lifestyles and being physically literate, while also combining with actual scientific knowledge on this is why it's healthy to be active. And I think you can combine those things and have tons of subject matter to teach a class over a semester.
Yeah.
And that would be good for any high school student to take.
Because, if we read through those 4 things again, those 4 outcomes that the government put out. Basketball's not a skill. Floor hockey's not a skill. And as much as it pains me, playing football is not a skill. However, balance, positive interaction, cooperation, teamwork, understanding the benefits of active lifestyle, these are skills that we want our kids to coming forward with. And we have no excuse not to give it to them. And, PE, the experiences will help kids to improve social skills. There's lots of games I want to incorporate where communication, nonverbal, so where you're having to cooperate but you can't speak. So how does that work for kids? And that helps kids who are afraid to speak out. Maybe a ESL learner, he doesn't have to use his words, he can use his body language. So I guess a little bit of a pause. We'll go into my final resource. This one was called Primary Teachers as Physical Education Curriculum Change Agents. This is by Nicola Kars. This is in the UK. And this is where teachers were experimenting with new ideas in physical education lessons and enacting their own personal vision and reflected in their practice. And they became a lot more immersed in the process of continuing learning when they did this, as opposed from just grabbing a basketball lesson or a volleyball lesson off the internet. So do you think that's another thing, another step we have to put on teachers? If I teach PE, am I done teaching PE when I go home? I know because let's be honest, as a PE teacher, I don't have any marking to do at home. I can't, unless I'm videotaping the class, which would probably be a no. I have to mark as I'm teaching. Because a math teacher, you can take a math test home and grade it, but if I'm grading on a balance movement or skill, I mark it right there.
Yeah, but how do you even grade that? Because we just said that there's such a big, wide variety between someone who is involved extracurricular in sports versus someone isn't. So you can balance good, and you can't, so you get a bad mark. So a person who needs more education and skill gets punished for not being good at it.
I think it's more so effort and improvement. Yeah.
Markings on effort and improvement, and with more effort comes more improvement. And I mean, that's where grades will come in, and that's not going to be a secret too. I mean,
no.
I think there's a lot of athletes who can get bad grades in gym because they don't try hard, and I think that's deserved. Yeah. And I think that doesn't happen often enough, honestly. If you think of athletes, gym is almost like a cop-out grade, high mark just because they're super athletic, and it shouldn't be that way.
No.
Not at all. It should be all about effort and improvement and how you work together. Those are all things that everybody can improve all the time.
Exactly. And if we were to take let's just say example A, let's say Tanisa is a stud on her basketball team. And let's say there's a unit where there's basketball involved and she's just not passing or anything, and we give her a 70. She's going to be mad, but at the same time, the cooperation and teamwork were not there for her.
Well,
and that's a huge thing, right?
Yeah, if you explain to them these are the objectives and they know what to work towards.
100%.
And the educator's you're gonna have knowledge. If a kid's balance is not where it needs to be and stuff, give them hints, tell them to widen their base or whatever you need to do. And I think that that's why when we're making our educators more educated, then they can help apply things rather than just tell kids to move. Tell them how to move.
And I think the cool thing with PE is like we're not restrained by in this article it talks about the grammar of schooling, timetabling, conventional academic subjects like math and language. They do take a precedent within the curriculum, but as you know, it sucks for PE teachers because you know we have to overcome this generically traditional sport and games perception of what physical education has been held by parents. When our parents did, and my dad would talk about it, he's like, yeah, we did volleyball as a unit, and you set the volleyball, and if I set it 8 times out of 10, that was my mark. But it's such a huge detract because like how many people play volleyball now in a rec league? We don't. None of us are in a rec league, yet we did volleyball units in high school and middle school.
See, I always got great marks in gym because I just wasn't an asshole. And that went pretty far with the guys that, in my gym class. But
yeah, but like that's a huge
I try when we did the like there'd be like fitness testing and stuff, and I'd try during that. But like one reason why I think sports also maybe aren't good. I'm kind of on this bandwagon now about sports. You guys are.
It's fun to have an opinion.
No, I know. But now I'm thinking about it. Right, it's just something I never really thought about that much. But like, so if you put, if you have the great basketball, like we'll go back to the basketball example. You have a great basketball player, and then you have someone who doesn't really play basketball, but you want to mark them on communication skills and teamwork and including. Well, like your goal when you're playing a basketball game is to win the basketball game, right? So if you're trying to be the most efficient way to accomplish that goal is you're not gonna include the person who's not good. You're not gonna pass it to them. You're gonna go and score yourself, right? So does that mean you get a bad mark? So does that mean you get a bad mark for not including and not being a team player? Well, no, because I was trying to win. That's the point of the game.
So no, 100%.
So it's sports. So that's why I don't think sports. You're right.
Yeah, if we look at it if we look at that from the planning side, you just taught a kid to be individualistic and not cooperate.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like I was an athlete, like I wouldn't pass to certain kids because I wanted my team to win.
Or conversely, you reward them for not trying, like you reward them for not accomplishing their goal.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get away from winning in gym altogether. It's individual.
I know. That's why
it has to be about individual improvements and
that's why sports don't mesh with gym.
A win, like winning now should be having a positive environment and kids leaving going, I need physical activity to be a part of my lifestyle.
Yeah,
like that's a win as kids adopting these healthy lifestyles.
That's the win.
And I think that's why we should teach PE. And these fresh ideas, they're going to come through the curriculum in the next 5 to 20 years as new teachers come in. And the last update to our curriculum was 2000. That's the last updated, Jim. That thing I read you was from 2000. Hasn't changed. It's been the same PDF. Like there needs to be an update to it. And we need to get rid of this traditional sport thing.
Yeah, I think
it's on its way out.
But here's another thing though. Is like, how do you think? Okay, bye. How do you think?
We're gonna close off in like 2 minutes.
Okay, cool. Well, I just want to lay this one out there.
Yeah.
So, what was my train? Okay, so how do you get kids to embrace I need physical activity in my life?
You show the benefits.
No, I understand that, but in the same way, it's like a kid who's in grade 6, doesn't care about that. In the same way that a kid in grade 6 doesn't care about math, It's like that doesn't show, like, mathematics doesn't show value in my life, but you know what I mean? Like, how do you get a kid inspired and like, I want to be super healthy, I want to be super active? Kids just want to fucking play games.
And that's why
we play games and have fun.
That's why you play games and have fun, because as a kid going forward, then you go, as a young adult, you get into the workforce, you go like, man, I miss my PE, like kind of during the day when I got to be with my friends and hang out. And then you want to join a social club, maybe something like that to do, or you join a gym. I miss that activity during my day. And you're able to instill that. You might not be hammering it into them every day, but at the same time, it's like they're kind of picking it up as they go. You're kind of like indoctrinating them into it. I don't want to use that word, but you kind of are.
I just think you got to be careful about the way you go about it, because if you just teach people like, if you do this, you'll be more healthy and it'll be good, and then let's go for a run because it's healthy and it's good. Kids are just feeling like, I don't fucking want to go for a run.
No, 100%.
Just like I don't want to do these times tables, So
it's the same kind of strategies that you do to get kids to do math.
Yeah.
Like the flashcard games and stuff.
Yeah, you trick them. You trick them.
Like there's a box, and this kid's been in this box, and he's bored of this freaking box. Well, let's take him outside of that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, a lot of like when I think about it is like, okay, I didn't enjoy doing math as a kid, but I knew that I needed it moving forward because I realized that like I was gonna want to do something, like when I grew up, related to science and math, right? But like a lot of people can't be like, oh, I want to do something.
But Rylan, think of it like this.
I want to do something for my job that is like professionally active.
Now you say
what I mean?
No, I get that 100%. Now what if I flip the table and say, what if you want to live another 20 years?
Well, that's true.
What's 20 years on your life? Being physically active has innumerable benefits for your mental well-being alone, let alone the physical.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just saying, kids don't think about that shit.
I know, but like as
you're not gonna tell them go for a run or you're gonna die. Or
no, 100% not. But I mean, like to instill that confidence.
If you have sex, you will get AIDS and you will die.
Well, thank you, 1950s Alabama sex ed teacher. But I mean,
2012.
yeah, still close enough. But I think that's kind of close out on that thing. I think that's why we need to teach PEs to give these kids and instill these healthy lifestyles within them. Anybody else want to have anything closing on that?
Yeah.
Like
no
I
one's
said,
gonna disagree.
That's
Well, no, 100%, but that's the focus of it. It's why should we teach it?
Yeah, I feel you.
I think that like the benefits of physical education are very well known by the teachers who are coming out now, and they're learning new ways to provide it to the general population as a whole. And I think sports-based gym class is absolutely on its way out, and it's been on its way out for I'd say almost 10 years now. But it is a slow process because you get teachers that have been around for a long time, and that's all they know.
And maybe it's the dinosaur that's still collecting his paycheck waiting until he hits that age where he gets his pension now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that continued learning after you do get an ed degree should almost be mandatory.
And here's the big thing is just kind of finishing on this.
I agree with that.
We all go to university,
teachers.
and there's such a big focus on the university at Res. Kids going into Res their first year on healthy living. Here's how to eat. Here's how to be active. If someone just starts going out to the work environment, starts doing manual labor, there's nothing to tell them that. Their boss doesn't go, hey, good job today, in the shop, but make sure you get your 30 minutes of daily activity tonight when you go home. Like no one's.
Well, that's because it's on the adult then to make the choice.
Yeah, I think it due for an overhaul. The math, not math. What were we talking about? Gym? Sorry, I had math on the brain.
You need this weekend.
I need to go do some math, guys. No, I think it's definitely due for what did you say? 2000? It's due for
2000 was the last.
It's almost 20 years ago.
17 years.
We're coming up.
Yeah, it's due for an update.
Let's
and
be
I agree
honest.
that sports and phys ed I don't think really clashes, but I do think that there should still be ample opportunity to introduce kids to sports specifically. Maybe that's not in gym class, but if there's option to somehow to do that, because a lot of kids because if you find a sport that you like, then that can lead you to be lifelong active. Like something you can do, like playing hockey. Like what if a kid never gets to play hockey except for in one, maybe not gym, but some other sports class, and he loves it, and then figures out a way to
afford it
to do that. He realizes he likes it, or she, and can do that for the rest of his or her life.
100%.
Then I think there still needs to be sports, but not in gym class, because we need to get people interested, but a lot of people just won't be.
Yeah, why we need
Anyway.
we need to teach to that 95%.
You could almost just scrap the name gym class and then have health class and sports class. Separate the two.
It's the same. Yeah, seriously, that's kind of what it is. Except did I even take a health class?
It was mandatory.
You have to do CALM, Career and Life Management.
Oh, that was
and
a
the
joke.
health.
I don't even think I did that.
But any closing
Shannon, to close.
statement?
I think the focus needs to be on creating a lifestyle rather than rules for kids to do stuff so that it's involved in their life, and by educating the parents and the kids, then it's gonna progress from there.
Also, maybe real quick, last thing is I think it should be
What
more.
if I cut you off right now?
Don't do it. I'd be so mad because so I didn't take gym in grade 11, grade 12 because I didn't need it and I needed these other classes, right?
Yeah.
I think higher institutions should be like, and like, if you want to be in this program, you gotta have all your gym and you gotta have over this because we want healthy.
And maybe
people.
there's ways to adopt.
And I don't know. I'm not saying
Let's not
specifically
do
like
90
that.
minutes of gym a day, but maybe there's a way to adopt it.
Anyway, I just think there should be more like.
Opportunities.
Yeah, like it should be worth more. Like as a grade 11 student, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm not gonna take this because it's not worth anything. Like it's not even worth my time. Whereas if there was if I needed it to do what I was gonna do, then I'd probably take it.
Yeah.
Well, I'd definitely take it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming today, guys.
Nate Kittle signing out.
Nate's out.
Drop mic.
Shannon, you got a cool. Let's get some flow. Let's get some flow.
No, I gotta eat.
Let's end it on that. Gotta
Big
eat.
girls gotta eat.
Girls gotta eat.